freaky friends. This is Margaret.
And this is Colleen.
And we're the Cousins Weird with new mics.
Wireless mics.
They sound pretty good.
Let's hope it continues.
Yeah, let's hope that this works good. We'll have to make sure we charge them because
that's part
Saturday,
of our problem.
We're going to be recording at the Haunted Happy Hour at the Historical Society.
We're going to bring them with us.
Those wonderful ladies were on the news and they mentioned us.
I know, we were so excited.
Oh my God, I was like,
I didn't even know. Listen, I didn't know it happened. Rich came home on his lunch break and was like, "Oh, you were on
yesterday?"
The news." Yeah. And I said, what? He's like, "Yeah, Jim," his coworker, was like, "I'm pretty sure they're talking about your wife and her cousin in their podcast on the news." It said Cousins something podcast. And I was like, "What?" I didn't know it was on the news. So I went onto the website and looked, and they said she shouted us out.
That was very nice of her. I appreciate it. You're sweet and awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah. Woohoo.
Aren't we fancy? We're going to be in the paper and we were on the news. Watch out, world. Cousins Weird's taking over.
There we go. There was something that I wanted to talk about and I forgot what it was. I need to remember to write things down.
Right.
Oh yeah, I got to talk to Colleen about that. It's gone.
I just had Reiki before this, so I'm real chill right now. My chakras are all aligned and open.
Nice. Very nice.
I feel good. I feel real good.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was stressed out a little, but that's more from busyness and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm about ready to make my first batch of soap solo.
That's
I made a
fun.
batch with my sister and it turned out fine. And
I'm sure
I brought it to work and I sold all of it. And I'll be like, "I need soap, Margaret." I'm like, "Oh shit, I gotta make it." And I want to have it for the holidays anyway. Like I want to get it ready for like Small Business Saturday and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I have to make it. But then I'm like, I had like a lot of the things that I thought I needed, but I'm like, oh wait, I need more oil. Oh wait, I need
this.
I need special bowls and things because you have to use glass or stainless steel. So I'm like, I have piecemeal stuff, but I want
specific.
I want dedicated stuff for soap making. And I'm like, oh my God, I need an immersion blender and the hand motion for immersion blender.
Margaret said I need an immersion blender, and she was acting like she was
holding a shake weight.
Holding a shake weight. Yes, let's keep it rated PG.
But I'm like, I shouldn't do that. I'm trying to explain to people. And
I said that's correct.
Do you have immersion blenders? You know, the ones that stick.
Did you do that?
And I'm like,
and Ollie's?
Yeah,
I did.
I wasn't thinking of it.
I thought you were just doing it to me.
And I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't do that. Yeah, leave it to me to be dirty.
Margaret was using a shake weight.
I finally watched. I'm all caught up with Only Murders in the Building, and oh my God, it's my new favorite thing.
I'm so glad you watched it. It's one of my favorite shows.
I didn't know they were in a podcast.
Yes. Hey, guess what?
Huh?
What goes on sale Friday? Tickets. Martin Short and Steve Martin are coming back to Turning Stone. And tickets go on sale Friday. I don't know how much they're going to be, but I really want to get tickets.
I think they're wicked expensive.
They probably are.
I would love to go to that.
I love them.
I know the spa at Turning Stone is stupid expensive too. I should get a job there, but I probably wouldn't be making any more money than I am now.
Probably not. They just charge everything more.
Like, no. I like where I am. It's fun.
Good.
There's no stress. I don't really,
chill.
I rent
the spa. It should be stress-free.
Right. I rent space, and then I get to pick I get to pick my hours and my days, and I figure out, busy. It could be busier always, but, I like it. It's fun.
Right now in Watertown, there's no water, so that's cool.
Take the water out of Watertown. What do you get? Town. Not even funny. It's stupid.
School's closed already for tomorrow.
Well, you can't be open if the kids can't go to the bathroom.
I know. And then, if you think about it, there's a danger with fire. If there's a fire, they have tankers coming in from other departments to be here in town in case there's a fire. Well, there's no water, but it could be days.
Well, Ruben thought one of his coworkers was buying him lunch today, but it turns out she meant Saturday, not today. So he didn't bring lunch with him because he thought his coworker was treating him because he treated yesterday, right? And then he's like, "Hey, Margaret, will you get me lunch because she's treating on Saturday, not today?" I'm like, "Okay." Burger King, both Burger Kings were closed. Like Wendy's closed, Direct Subs closed.
Yeah, they have no water.
Except, I was down State Street. McDonald's was open and all the restaurants on the square were still open. And I don't know if it's because they're locally owned, but I was kind of surprised. I'm like, how can you have a
They
restaurant
may have went and
open and but
bought water.
how
for
do you
hand
wash your
washing.
dishes?
I don't know.
How do you flush your toilet?
Well, my house, the toilet flushes right now, but it's only certain parts of the town had water still, but you couldn't. It was not potable. Like you had to boil it. So maybe they're boiling water to wash their dishes. I don't know.
Weird.
I don't think I'd eat out right now.
No. So I went to the Korean or the Asian food store and bought a bunch of stuff that he could eat, and I probably spent more there than I would have if I had bought lunch somewhere. But yeah, that's what I did today. Ran around and did that
and shake weighted your way through.
That was yesterday. The shake weight issue was yesterday, and I was in town all friggin' day, and I was just done. I'm like, I'm done. I can't. And then this morning, I'm like, shit, I need to go to the mustard seeds because I need clay powder for making my soap and coffee because we were out of coffee, and that is not. I had to drink Keurig coffee.
It's not acceptable.
K-cup coffee, which tastes like ass.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's gross. Yeah. So. Like, okay, we're done with this. I gotta go get good coffee.
I've been drinking Josh Allen coffee. Josh Allen, I think it's good. You probably would.
I would not like it.
Because you're a coffee snob.
Does it come ground?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't like that.
But it's Josh Allen coffee.
Doesn't matter.
I think it's tasty. And I'm not even trying to be biased. I think it's tasty. But that's okay.
Where is it made? Where's it from?
Buffalo.
It's roasted?
I don't know where it's roasted, Margaret. I don't read what it says.
See, that's important. For me, when I buy coffee, I need to know, how far away is this coming from? Okay, St. Lawrence Valley Roasters is my favorite. And they've been my favorite since I discovered them when I worked at the Mustard Seed. But he's out of Canton, I think he's Potsdam now. But he roasts the coffee, and if you order it,
I'm sure Josh Allen's roasting it in Buffalo, Margaret.
I'm sure he is, Colleen, with his own hands.
Yes,
he's got so much time
his
on
face
his hands.
is on it. And that's all that matters to me.
That's really all that you need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you like that little video I saw of the little girl they asked her, who's your favorite football player? Taylor Swift.
So funny.
I watch football.
Oh, that's so cute.
She's adorable. All right. Anything else?
No.
Well, I might as well get into it then.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so roughly 6 miles off the coast of the border between New Hampshire and Maine is a group of small islands referred to as the Isles of Shoals.
Okay.
People have occupied these islands for over 400 years. Firstly, the indigenous people used them for seasonal fishing camps. So they didn't really live there, but they would go there to fish and then come back. They would canoe out and come back. There's not a lot on these islands. So in the 17th century, the Europeans came and settled, I'm using that in quotation marks, on some of them. But these were mostly British and French people. Captain John Smith, who we know from Pocahontas' story, he named them Smith Isles.
Of course he did, because he's a narcissistic prick.
Yep, in 1614. But the
handwriting woes.
The fish Engelman, that's the first Englishman. Fish Engelmans is what I wrote here. Fish? Fish, that's not right. Engelmans. But the first Englishman to land on the isle was in 1623. So in 1614 they saw them, but they didn't actually get on them,
Okay.
They were the English explorer Captain Christopher Levitt, and he brought 6 ships with him. They had 300 men. And they discovered, I'm using quotation marks, to them, the shoals were mostly, they discovered that the shoals were mostly uninhabitable. There's not a lot of trees on them. The dirt wasn't that great for farming.
Right.
So they were it's a good place for fishing. Because they're
that's about all you could do.
Yeah, they're small. In 1628, Thomas Morton was a pilgrim from Devon, England. He founded a colony called Marymount in Quincy, Massachusetts. And he was exiled to the shoals for his heathenistic relation with the indigenous people.
Oh.
For supplying them guns. And it also is said he had erected a 80-foot maypole.
I'm like a 12-year-old. You say erected.
I know. I'm getting there. An 80-foot maypole topped with the antlers of a deer, in which he and his followers danced around it and had drunken orgies. And they were also supposed to have been having sex with the native women. So he was being naughty compared
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, he was a pilgrim, so they're supposed to.
He was supposed to be Puritan. Yeah. I think he sounds like a party.
So they
I'm okay with
exiled
that.
him, and
If the pilgrims exile you, you're doing something right.
I know you're having fun. You are not supposed to smile.
No.
Drunken orgies and dancing around a maypole naked.
I love
it. So they exiled him to this island until a ship from England could pick him up and bring him back to England because, like, we don't want you here. Go back home. You know.
He's like, all right, I'll go there and party. Whatever. I can party in England too.
They didn't care about drunken. I mean, look at King Henry
I know, right?
VIII. Yes. So at this time in history, Maine and New Hampshire were part of Massachusetts Bay Colony.
Okay.
So they were part of that whole group, the Massachusetts Bay, called the Massachusetts Bay Colonies, you know, in which the Isles, which are now called, at this point in time, the town of Appledore, Appledore, so Appledore.
Like Dumbledore, but with an apple.
They incorporated these isles into that town, and they called it Appledore, this whole group of islands.
Okay.
So, not to be confusing. Yeah. The town name changed to the Isles of Shoals in 1668. So, like, it goes through, like, first it's part of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and they refer to it as Appledore, and then from there they refer to them as the Isles of the Shoals. So, which is what we call them now. But each of the islands in this group, they all have their own name.
Okay.
So most of the population lived on Star Island, which was part of New Hampshire. It's in because some of these islands belong to New Hampshire and some of them belong to Maine.
Okay.
So they're not even part of Massachusetts because those states broke off from the original Massachusetts Bay Colony and they formed their own states.
Okay.
So
I think I'm following.
You got it. Okay.
I think I'm following.
All right. So in 1715, New Hampshire established the township of Gosport on Star Island. So, like, Star Island, they're calling it Gosport now. It's part of that township. The community of Gosport was prosperous until the Revolutionary War started, and then they had to evacuate in 1778. So they were there for quite a few years. It's just a small, not a lot of people living on there, obviously, because it's not.
Right.
They're close enough to mainland where they could ship over and back, but not. They're not very big, these islands anyway,
right.
So, The islands remained mostly abandoned through the middle of the 1800s. In the late 1800s, two men, one was named Thomas Layton and the other was Levi Thaxter, opened a summer hotel on one of the islands, Appledore in Maine, part of Maine. Layton's daughter, Celia, was married to Levi, his partner, at the tender age of 16.
Ugh.
Yeah. Celia Thaxter was a renowned American author. At one point, they named her the best female American author of the late 1800s.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And she wrote many poems and stories, and a lot of them had to do with growing up. And she started out living on White Island, and then she lived on the mainland. And she basically ended her life. She was living on Appledore Island.
Okay.
Many of her romantic poems were addressed to women, and many literary scholars have identified her as a lesbian poet, even though
girl.
She was married. And it said her relationship with her husband was contentious, and at one point, she had 3 sons. She lived on this island, and he lived in Florida with 2 of their sons. So they lived apart a lot, and they didn't get along very well.
Right.
So she probably was a lesbian. Yeah, but not that she
weren't allowed to be.
No, she wasn't allowed to be.
But get it, girl.
Celia stated that the island was haunted by the ghost of Philip Babb or some evil-minded descendant of his.
Ooh.
Is what she wrote, about living in this island here. She's responsible for the start of the arts community at the hotel on this island.
Very cool.
And Nathaniel Hawthorne and impressionist painter Child Hansen were known to frequent the island, and the painter William Morris Hunt, he drew his last works there. He drew a lot of charcoal pictures.
Okay.
In 1879 before committing suicide by drowning himself.
Ugh.
He was there and he drew these pictures and he
killed
disappeared
himself.
And he was found by Celia on the shore.
Oh.
Which is awful.
That's depressing.
Yeah. Other islands. This hotel actually was built in 1847, this summer hotel that she was at. And it was known as the Appledore House. And it was lost to a fire in 1914. So it's not there anymore.
Oh, bummer.
Other people built hotels on some of the other islands just because of how successful this one was and how many. It drew a lot of famous literary and art people. It's very artsy hubs.
I like it.
The Mid-Ocean House was on Smutty Nose Island.
I like it.
Me too. And the Oceanic Hotel on Star Island. And that one is still open, the Oceanic Hotel. So you can go there and stay.
I've heard of that Oceanic Hotel or Oceanic something.
I'm going to go a little bit on each island. So Appledore Island, this gets weird, I promise. It's about the hauntings of the Isles of Shoals. So that's like what I'm going for if I didn't say it ahead of time.
You didn't say that.
I didn't.
That's okay.
But I was just kind of sneaking in there, I guess.
Yeah.
Appledore Island is part of Maine. It is the largest of the Isles. It was previously called Hog Island. And then before that, it was called Farm Island. It's 95
pigs on it.
I don't know. 95 acres is the size of it. East to west, it's half a mile. And
not very
north
big.
to south, it's 0.6 miles. So
very tiny little thing.
Not a big island. It's the biggest one there. Today, the island is owned by the Star Island Corporation and has the Shoals Marine Laboratory on it, which is run by Cornell University and the University of New Hampshire.
Oh, very cool.
The next island I'm going to talk about is Star Island, and that's part of New Hampshire. It's the second biggest. It's 46 acres, so it's about half the size. Mm-hmm. It's less than half the size of the Appledore Island. It's located within the borders of Rye, New Hampshire, so it's considered part of Rye Township.
Okay.
It is the only island that has a commercial boat that regularly visits it from the mainland. I think there's a ferry.
Oh.
It is owned by the Star Island Corporation and is used mostly for religious and educational conferences. So there's like lots of week-long conferences. People go there. It's affiliated with the Unitarian Universalist Association and the United Church of Christ. Not of Latter-day Saints. Okay. Just the United Church of Christ, which is like very liberal Protestant.
Gotcha.
Yep. The island has a 200-year-old chapel and several buildings from the original village that was on there. So, I mean, it's like that cool old stuff on there. It's also home to the Oceanic Hotel and the Gosport House. They're both on Star Island. The next one is Smutty Nose Island, and it's part of Maine. And
Smutty Nose, you.
Yeah, this one's fun. It's 25 acres. It's tiny, and it's allegedly where Blackbeard took his honeymoon with one of his wives.
Love it.
Yeah, and there's more to that story too. In 1813, the Spanish ship, I've seen it, Sagunto and Isidore, so it's one of those two names, right? Was shipwrecked there, and the crew were found frozen on the rocky shore, all dead. Like, no one survived that they know of. And in 1873, on March 6th, it was where two young women were murdered.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. And there's a lot of, like, modern, like, they've made movies and books and stuff about it. Celia Thaxter wrote about it in her story called A Memorable Murder. Anita Shreve also based her historical fiction book, The Weight of Water, which also had a movie, was based on fictional. It's a fiction, but it was based on the story. She basically has a different person be the murderer, like, because there's like contention there. There's a John Perrault song from like the 70s or the 80s called The Ballad of Louis Wagner, and that's about these murders. Louis Wagner entered the home of Norwegian immigrants. Maren Hontvelt and her husband owned this house, but who was in the house at the time was Maren, her sister, Karen Christensen, and their sister-in-law, Annette. So who was living in this house at the time was Maren and her husband, Karen, their brother, and their brother's wife. Okay. Like the two men had left they had to go to the mainland. And then,
so the women were in the house.
In the house. And the men were supposed to come back like the next day or the day after, but the men had left to do whatever men do. They're probably going to town to buy supplies. It's in the 1800s.
Women, I don't know.
1873, so it's not like there's motorboats going back and forth at this point. And Louis Wagner was a friend to them. He was a caretaker. He lived in the house with them for a while, and then he moved out and had a job on the mainland that he got fired from, and he was hard up, and his plan was to go and rob this house. And he knew the men were gone, so he was going to go and wait, and the women would be sleeping. Right. And he was going to go in and take them. Well, this story is based on accounts of Maren and Louis. Maren said that they woke up, right? And he beat and strangled Karen to death. And then he killed Annette with an axe that he found on the house. Maren escaped, and she spent the night hiding in underneath rocks in the cove, shivering all night, waiting for him, because he hung around after he killed these two women, and he looked for her, and then he went back to the house, and he made himself something to eat.
What a bastard.
And then he ended up leaving, and she waited to the next
killed
day.
two women, and you had, I got to have some dinner now in their house with their food?
Right.
What a bastard.
And Wagner was eventually caught. Like, Marin was able to flag down people, like, on the next island or whatever, and they came and they found out what happened, and then they caught him in Boston trying to get on a train to go somewhere, or a ship or something. He was like trying to get away, and they arrested him. He was tried and convicted, and he escaped and was recaught and hanged.
Oh my God.
So he was hanged for the crime.
Good.
He insisted that it was Marin that killed them, and she and her husband framed him for it and covered it up. But there was a lot of evidence, like the bloody boot prints that were around matched his shoes.
And her husband wasn't even there.
Right. And it was like, but he said after the fact. Like, that's why he wasn't there. He was, I was gone. Uh-huh.
Oh, so they're saying he killed him and then left.
But a lot of people, like, because this is when he was waiting after he had escaped and gotten recaught, and he was waiting to be hanged. Mm-hmm. He told, like, the press that I didn't do it, I'm innocent. And some people believed him. Like, there are a lot, and that's what Anita Shreve, that wrote the book The Weight of Water, in her book Marin's the killer. So if you watch that movie, they have it as he's innocent. And
they went with his story.
Yeah, she fictionalized it. Like, maybe she thought he was. Who knows? It's like from the late 1800s. So
there wasn't a lot of forensic science then.
But yeah, there's a whole bunch of information about this, and we'll get back to it in a little bit once I get done with this. Okay, so the next island we're talking about is the Malaga Island. It's a tiny island west of Smutty Nose, connected by a breakwater built in 1820 by Captain Samuel Hay, and he used silver bars that were purportedly pirate treasure that he dug up and found on the island. So that's what he used to fund this breakwater that connected it to Smutty Nose. White Island is located within the town of Rye, New Hampshire again, and it has the Isles of Shoals Light, which is a lighthouse, and the keeper's house. It also has a coastal weather station on it. Other islands in the Isles of Shoals are Seavey, Lunging, Duck, and Cedar. But they're all real small, so not a lot. And even White Island is really tiny. Now we're going to get into the hauntings and lore behind some of these islands and things that people have...
New England haunt is always good.
I love it. And this is close enough where we could go visit if we want to. This is fun.
That'd be fun. I bet the lighthouse is haunted. Lighthouses are always haunted.
Always haunted, yes. So it is said that Blackbeard abandoned his wife, his 15th wife...
What a fucker.
...on Smutty Nose. He left her there. He was getting chased by the English, and he needed to get rid of his treasure. So he went on the island, and he buried his treasure, and he left his wife, his 15th wife, behind to guard his treasure and wait for him. So she is seen and heard crying. Usually it's foggy nights. They can see her. She's pacing and crying and
wondering when he's coming back.
He's coming back. He'll be back. And
he's
they
not
can hear her saying he'll be back. And is Blackbeard's silver treasure that was found by a lucky fisherman, Captain Hay, perhaps?
Oh, maybe it was his treasure
that he found. You never know. Star Island is probably one of the more haunted ones, and there's a lot of, like, it's cursed. People think it's cursed. It's very haunted. The chapel on Star Island, which is really old, people are seen in the windows. Like, you'll be walking through, they'll see people walking back and forth in front of the windows. They'll hear singing coming out of the chapel, and then they'll go in there. There'll be nobody in there.
No one's in it.
Which is creepy. At night, there have been sightings of a large black dog with glowing red eyes.
No, thank you.
That vanishes when you approach it.
Well, I'm glad it goes away.
Yeah, but who would approach a big black dog with glowing red eyes?
That's true. Why are you approaching it?
Don't approach it. It's not your friend.
You never go near a
That's
big
not
dog.
a puppy you want to pet.
You never go near a dog that you don't know.
But there are idiots out there that would, because they're stupid. When the colonists, and I'm using colonists in parentheses, the invaders, first arrived on the island, the indigenous people told them not to stay there there was evil that lived there and they shouldn't stay there.
Listen to those.
And then that's why they didn't live on it, probably.
Yeah, they're like,
it was
we're not
inhospitable.
stupid.
There's evil here. Don't stay here. Stop here and then leave, but don't stay. They have found logs written at the time, like these colonists, they found like logbooks of people seeing strange lights and a burning ship floating on the water around the island. And there are still sightings of these today.
I love a good haunted ship, ghost ship. Love anything to do with ships.
Probably the Spanish ship that sank.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of sightings of it. Like the people see it and they'll see it and then it'll like, it's like a flash. They'll see it and then it'll
be gone. Then you're like, wonder if you're
like,
am I losing it?
Am I losing my mind?
Yeah.
There's also a story about 3 little sisters who lived on the island and they all contracted scarlet fever and died within weeks of each other. And this was in 1863. There have been sightings of them giggling and playing together around their graves in the cemetery, which makes me sad but happy because they're still playing together,
which is true.
They're together, but yeah, like Smutty Nose, I forgot to tell you, is also Smutty Nose Island is also home to the brewery that makes Smutty Nose Pale Ale.
Ah, Smutty Nose Pale Ale. I knew that sounded familiar.
I knew, yes. So Smutty Nose and the ghost ship of Isidore on Smutty Nose, they can be seen floating around the island and it disappears.
Cool.
But there are no reports of ghosts of the murdered women, though. People haven't really talked about, like, any of the reports I've seen, nobody ever mentions these ghosts of these murdered women.
Maybe they found peace.
No. But the axe that Lewis used is currently on display in the Portsmouth Athenaeum.
That's kind of weird, right?
They took his axe and they displayed it in this place.
Did they do that to, like, the gun that killed Kennedy? Did they display that? Like, that just seems morbid and weird to display the murder weapon.
It was from the 1800s and they used to go watch executions.
True.
So.
I know, but it's still on display.
But they said that house that it happened in is gone. And they said what happened was people came and took
pieces of it.
They took it and they had like bloody boards where their blood was on the wood. People would take the wood and take it back with them as a souvenir. I'm like,
I mean, I like morbid shit, but I don't want that.
That's bad mojo.
That's why they're not there. They went with someone that has their blood.
That probably is right.
That's why they're not there.
Yeah, they're probably haunting that
Well, that's what you get for being stupid.
Athenaeum, whatever the hell that is. So now we're going on to Appledore Island. Philip Babb, mentioned by Celia Baxter, mentioned Philip Babb.
Okay, yeah.
He was born in England in 1634. He and his family, he had a wife and a couple of kids. They sailed to the New World, I'm using that in quotation marks, and ended up on Appledore Island. He was supposedly the constable, butcher, and innkeeper.
He did
where
everything.
He lived. Yep. But the legend is that he was a retired pirate. People said he was on Captain Kidd's ship.
Neat.
And I've heard some reports say the pirate treasure is Captain Kidd and some that say it's Blackbeard. So I think Blackbeard was definitely in the area.
Right.
But I think Captain Kidd was too. So it could have been both. He was known to be rude, wicked, and loathsome.
Oh.
People thought they were disgusted by him, the people that lived near him, his neighbors. They were disgusted by him for his wicked manners and he had rude manners. He was loathsome. People hated him. He was not
if I
a nice
think about back then, though, he's probably way better than the rest of the people around him.
Probably.
If you think about the people that are
crotchety. He was a crotchety guy. He was a butcher. So you can think he's probably like...
He probably stinks like death.
He lived on the south of the island, and there's a cove named after him called Babb's Cove, where he and a neighbor...
He was so terrible. Why did you name a cove after him?
They do now because that's where they see his ghost.
Okay.
They said he and a neighbor dug a large hole there.
Okay.
And it was there for a long time. Like, people could go and see it into the 19th century.
This big hole.
He dug a hole, and it was in which he either buried or dug up a large treasure. So it was either he found a pirate treasure or he was burying a pirate treasure.
Or he knew he buried one there.
Right. He died March 3rd of 1671, and he was buried on the island in the family plot. Because there's cemeteries, there's graveyards all over these islands.
Oh, yeah,
Because, what are they going to do with the people that died?
Right.
Like, they can't... Let's paddle them back to the mainland and bury them.
Fling them into the water.
Right. They just float back up.
Yeah.
His ghost is sighted frequently wearing a butcher's apron and carrying a large knife.
Oh, good.
Where he terrorizes people by running at them, brandishing his knife in their face.
Okay, he is kind of a jerk.
But I bet he does it on purpose.
Yeah, because he wants to.
He seems like he's like laughing about it.
Right.
100%.
He likes to spook people.
Oh yeah. White Island. There's a woman in white is seen crying, and people say that it's Blackbeard's bride. Like she's seen on multiple islands.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, these islands are close enough together where
That it could make sense that it would be a thing.
Another apparition is of a woman, and she's seen. They call it Moody's Cave, and she's seen screaming and crying while trying to hide, and she has a baby.
Oh.
And they said from the hostile natives that were there, and it said that this woman, Betty Moody, accidentally smothered her baby to keep it quiet so as to not be found while she was hiding.
That's terrible.
And then they see her ghost there crying and hiding and weeping. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like awful.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yep. People also say they can hear a woman's cries before a storm comes to the island. So like they'll just hear this random like
wailing,
cry out, and then a storm comes in. But they said that the wind can sound like a woman crying. Like, so if the winds are blowing strong and from a certain distance, it could be thought of as a woman.
Interesting.
One thing was, and this is something written a long time ago. This is a chapter taken from a book titled Ancient and Modern Isles of Shoals from Their First Discovery to Present Time by Mr. M. TZL Montague out of Boston, and it was written in 1872, and this is from page 32. He wrote, an ancient allegory, an unpublished tale in connection with one of these islands, but which one is not stated, consists of the following, which seems more miraculous than ancient tales of the northern kraken or even our modern ghost feats. Waka Waka, which is not Fozzie Bear. It's spelled Lakawaka.
Okay.
Who is represented as self-illuminating like a glowworm, was seen for many years near the shore, still holding the Lykwake, Lyke, like hash Wake, Lykwake.
Okay.
Of over the body of her deceased husband. This exhibition to mariners on the darkest nights was to their superstitious minds a constant terror, so much so that they invariably gave this island a wide berth after nightfall.
Ooh.
So, what is this Waka Waka?
Yeah.
Is it a cryptid or is it a ghost? It's illuminated like a glowworm, glows. But they said the word Lykwake, it's a Scottish term for like a wake with family members.
Oh, okay.
So this woman is holding a Lykwake, like, but it's like, what is this guy talking about? But it's some weird phenomenon from one of the islands that he wrote about in the late 1800s. So you can draw your own conclusions to that. But I thought it was a weird little tale I wanted to share. Like, what is it? He mentions it, but they don't mention what it is. Nobody knows.
No one knows.
Yeah.
What is it? It's probably like a cryptid.
I'm wondering.
Maybe.
Or it could be just a glowing ghost.
It could be glowworm, like when we were kids and you just squeeze it.
The glowworm.
Glowworm.
Renee, my sister Renee had a glowworm. Yeah, that's my tale.
That's a haunted tale.
Of the Isles of Shoals.
Isles of Shoals.
Off the coast of New Hampshire and Maine.
Nice. I love a New England haunt.
Me too. And this one I had to do a lot. Like my research took me a lot. Like it was like a fanned out shotgun blast because it took me all over the place. And I had to search for a lot to find more information on specific things. And I wanted to do a little history. It's good to know the history of a place
to get why it's haunted.
Why it's haunted, yes.
If there's bad energy, it tends to haunt.
Mm-hmm.
Things tend to stay.
People died there, lots of death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Haunted, spooky time. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I thought you'd like this one.
Speaking of haunted, spooky time, we're going to be at the Haunted Happy Hour at the Jefferson County Historical Society in Watertown on Saturday for their Haunted Happy Hour. It's at 6 to 8 p.m.
Saturday, October 21st.
Yes. I don't know when you're hearing this, but probably...
Hopefully we're going to post it tomorrow, but
We'll be there. It's $10 a person. So come on, you get some cocktails, you get to share stories, you get to hear stories, and we're going to record it. So you could be on our podcast if you come and share something. So that's exciting. And you always want to make sure you're following us on our social media on Facebook and on Instagram under the Cousins Weird Podcast. And we share our pictures from our episodes. So Margaret, I'm sure, has some great pictures to share.
Yeah, I got some pictures of the islands and one of Celia Thaxter.
Cool.
And I had a picture of a map, but it didn't show up, so I have to find a new one. One I tried.
Well, we always share pictures, and sometimes you might not want to see the pictures because Margaret likes to gross me out. And other times you do want to see them. But either way, you should always follow us because our episodes are posted on Facebook, and you can share them on your social media as they come out, because that's the best way to support our podcast is to share it with your friends.
Yeah, like us, rate us. Also helpful. If you would like to reach out to us, you can send us an email at thecousinsweird@gmail.com, or you can send us a direct message through Facebook or Instagram. We'd love to hear from you, whether it's just tell us what you like and what you don't like. If you'd like to hear something specific or you have a topic you'd like us to cover.
Yeah, we want to know. We want to know what you want to hear.
Some topics are hard. It's hard to find. Like, I find something that's interesting and then I can't find anything about it.
I know.
It's really disappointing.
Sometimes I start going deep diving, and like, oh man, and then you feel like you wasted so much time trying to.
You're like in the middle of the ocean with nothing around you.
And
this dive is empty. Nothing. No sharks, nothing.
But if you know of a cool topic, let us know. We will look. We will try our best to get it done. If you want to support our podcast other ways, you can go to patreon.com/thecousinsweird for $1 a month to become a freaky friend, and you get a sticker and bonus content. And then for $5 a month, you're getting to be the bestest fan, and you're a terrible trender, and you get a sticker, bonus content, a yearly gift, quarterly Skype with us, which I think is coming up soon. I think we just Skype.
Yeah, we've got one.
We got to set up a Skype.
And there's an article going to be coming out on us in the Watertown Daily Times, our local paper here. So look for that.
Saturday, the 21st.
Yep. So look for that. You'll get to see pictures of us down here in the pod lab.
In our pod lab.
AKA Colleen's parents' basement.
Yes. That's where, because this is where our formidable years were spent, in this basement.
It's like our second home.
Yeah. So, and it's cool down here. It's unique and different.
It is.
So
lots of cool.
That's my dad. It's all my dad. And it's pretty cool.
It is.
So, yeah, I think that's a wrap.
Stay freaky.
Bye.